In a small town nestled between rolling hills and sprawling fields, life moved at a slower pace. The townsfolk knew each other by name, and the local diner served as the heart of the community. It was here that stories were shared, laughter echoed, and friendships were forged over cups of steaming coffee. On this particular day, however, an unexpected visitor would soon disrupt the tranquility of this quiet place. Donald Trump, the former President of the United States, was on a road trip to reconnect with his roots. He had decided to take a break from the hustle and bustle of city life, seeking solace in the simplicity of rural America. As he cruised down the winding country roads in his sleek black SUV, he felt a sense of freedom that had long eluded him during his time in office. The sun was shining brightly, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers. But as fate would have it, just as he was enjoying the picturesque scenery, disaster struck. Without warning, the engine began to sputter and cough, and before he knew it, his vehicle came to a halt on the side of the road. Trump stepped out of the car, frustration etched across his face. He was in an unfamiliar place, miles away from any major city or service station. The irony of being stranded in a small town while trying to escape the chaos of his former life wasn't lost on him. As he stood beside his vehicle, he noticed a few locals passing by. They glanced at him with curiosity but continued on their way, accustomed to seeing travelers stop for directions or assistance. Trump pulled out his phone to call for help, but quickly realized that he had no signal in this remote area. Panic began to set in. What would he do now? Just then, a figure emerged from a nearby garage, a tall man with a warm smile and an easy demeanor. His name was Marcus, a skilled mechanic who had lived in this town all his life. He had seen all sorts of vehicles come through his shop, but never one quite like this. As he approached Trump's SUV, he could sense the tension radiating from the former president. "Need some help?" Marcus asked, his voice friendly yet firm. Trump hesitated for a moment, assessing the mechanic before him. He was dressed in grease-stained overalls and worn-out boots, but exuded an air of confidence that put Trump slightly at ease. "Yeah," Trump replied curtly. "My car broke down." Marcus nodded knowingly. "Let's take a look." He gestured for Trump to pop the hood while he reached for his toolbox. As Marcus examined the engine, Trump stood back, arms crossed and brow furrowed. He watched intently as Marcus worked with precision and skill, explaining each step along the way. "Looks like you've got an overheating issue," Marcus said after a few moments of inspection. "I'll need to flush out the coolant system and check for any leaks." Trump listened but couldn't shake off his initial annoyance at being stranded in such an inconvenient situation. "I can't believe this is happening," he muttered under his breath. Marcus glanced up with a raised eyebrow. "It happens to everyone at some point," he replied calmly. "You'd be surprised how many high-profile people come through here with car troubles." This piqued Trump's interest slightly. He had always been curious about how people perceived him outside of his usual circles. "Really? Like who?" he asked. With a chuckle, Marcus shared stories about celebrities and politicians who had found themselves in similar predicaments, each tale more entertaining than the last. As they chatted, Trump began to feel more at ease. Perhaps this unexpected breakdown wasn't such a disaster after all. The sun continued its descent toward the horizon as they worked together, Trump holding tools under Marcus's guidance while learning about basic car maintenance. In those moments, something shifted within Trump. He started to see Marcus not just as a mechanic, but as someone with valuable knowledge and experience. As they continued their work, Marcus shared insights about life in their small town, the struggles and triumphs of everyday people who face challenges far greater than mere car troubles. Trump listened intently as Marcus spoke about community bonds and resilience in the face of adversity. This interaction was beginning to teach him something profound. Sometimes, it took stepping outside one's comfort zone to truly understand another person's perspective. Little did they know that this chance encounter would lead to lessons that transcended their differences, a journey that would ultimately change both their lives forever. The breakdown. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the small town, Donald Trump and Marcus continued to work side by side. The engine of the SUV was now exposed, and the sounds of clanking tools and the occasional grunt filled the air. Trump had never imagined himself in such a situation, getting his hands dirty alongside a mechanic in a small town. Yet here he was, and surprisingly, he found himself enjoying it. "All right, let's see what we've got here," Marcus said, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. He reached for a wrench and began loosening a few bolts. "You'd be amazed at how many people neglect their vehicles. Regular maintenance can save you a lot of trouble down the road." Trump nodded, trying to absorb the information. "You mean to tell me that most people don't take care of their cars?" he asked, genuinely intrigued. "Absolutely," Marcus replied, glancing up with a smile. "It's like life. If you don't take care of things, they break down when you least expect it. Just like how people sometimes forget to take care of each other." The comment struck Trump more than he anticipated. He had spent years in the political arena, often surrounded by advisors and strategists who focused on image rather than substance. The idea that relationships, whether personal or professional, required maintenance was something he hadn't considered deeply before. As Marcus continued to work, he shared stories about his life in the town. "You know," he began, "this place isn't just about fixing cars. It's about fixing lives, too. People come here looking for help, not just with their vehicles, but with their problems." Trump listened intently as Marcus recounted tales of local residents who had faced hardships, loss of jobs, health issues, family struggles, and how the community rallied around them. "We may be a small town," Marcus said, "but we look out for each other. That's what makes us strong." Trump felt a pang of nostalgia mixed with envy. In his world of high-stakes politics and business deals, he had often felt isolated despite being surrounded by people. The camaraderie that Marcus described was something he yearned for but rarely experienced. "Do you ever get tired of it?" Trump asked suddenly, surprising himself with his candor. "Living in a small town, don't you want more?" Marcus paused for a moment, considering the question carefully. "Not really," he replied slowly. "I love this town and its people. Sure, it has its challenges, but I find fulfillment in helping others and being part of something bigger than myself." Trump felt an unfamiliar sensation, a sense of humility washing over him as he reflected on his own life choices. He had spent so much time chasing power and recognition that he often overlooked the simple joys that came from genuine connections with others. As they worked together to flush out the coolant system and replace a few worn-out parts, Trump found himself sharing snippets of his own life. Stories from his childhood in Queens, his early business ventures, and even some behind-the-scenes anecdotes from his time in office. It was strange to him. He had always been guarded about his personal life, but there was something about Marcus's down-to-earth demeanor that made him feel safe. "People often see me as just a businessman or a politician," Trump said thoughtfully. "But there's so much more to everyone than their public persona." Marcus nodded knowingly. "That's true for all of us," he replied. "We all have our struggles and our stories. It's easy to forget that when we only see each other through social media or news headlines." As they worked through the repairs, Trump began to feel more relaxed and engaged in their conversation. The mechanic's insights resonated with him on a deeper level than he expected. It was as if Marcus was peeling back layers of pretense that Trump had built around himself over the years. Just then, an elderly woman walked by on her way home from the grocery store. She stopped to wave at Marcus and offered a friendly smile to Trump. "Good evening. Looks like you've got quite the project going on," she called out cheerfully. "Just helping out a stranded traveler," Marcus replied with enthusiasm. The woman chuckled lightly before continuing on her way, leaving behind an air of warmth that lingered in the atmosphere. Trump watched her disappear down the street and turned back to Marcus. "That's nice," he said softly. "People here seem really connected." "They are," Marcus affirmed as he tightened another bolt in place. "It's all about community, supporting one another through thick and thin." As they wrapped up the repairs on the SUV, Trump felt an unexpected sense of gratitude wash over him. This breakdown had turned into an opportunity for reflection and growth, something he hadn't anticipated when he first found himself stranded on that rural road. With one final twist of the wrench, Marcus stepped back and wiped his hands on a rag. "All right, that should do it," he said with satisfaction. Trump climbed into the driver's seat and turned the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life smoothly, a sound that filled him with relief and excitement at once. "Thank you," Trump said earnestly as he stepped back out of the vehicle to face Marcus again. "I didn't just get my car fixed today. I learned something valuable." Marcus smiled warmly in response, but remained humble about his role in this unexpected encounter. "Just remember," he said gently, "it's not just about fixing cars. It's about fixing connections, too." With those words hanging in the air between them, Trump realized that this small-town mechanic had taught him more than any political advisor ever could. Sometimes it took stepping outside one's comfort zone to truly understand what mattered most in life: connection, empathy, and community. As they exchanged contact information before parting ways, Trump felt a sense of hope stirring within him, a hope that perhaps this experience could lead to something greater than just a repaired vehicle. It could be an opportunity for personal growth and understanding that would linger long after he drove away from this small town. Little did they know that this encounter would mark only the beginning of an unlikely friendship, a friendship that would transcend their differences and challenge both men to grow in ways they had never imagined possible. Meeting the mechanic. As Donald Trump drove away from the small town, he couldn't shake off the feeling of introspection that had settled in during his interaction with Marcus. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the landscape, but his mind was racing with thoughts about the conversation they had shared. He had come into this town as a powerful figure, but he was leaving with a newfound appreciation for the simplicity of human connection. A few days later, Trump found himself reflecting on his experience with Marcus. He had returned to his busy life, filled with meetings, phone calls, and media appearances. Yet something about that brief encounter lingered in his mind. He decided to reach out to Marcus again, not just to thank him for fixing his car, but to learn more about the man behind the wrench. Trump picked up his phone and dialed the number Marcus had given him. After a few rings, he heard a cheerful voice on the other end. "Hello?" "Marcus, it's Donald Trump," he said, trying to keep his tone casual. "Mr. Trump, good to hear from you," Marcus replied, his enthusiasm evident even through the phone. "How's the SUV running?" "Like a dream," Trump admitted with a chuckle. "But I wanted to talk to you about something else. I've been thinking about our conversation, about community and connection, and I'd love to learn more about your life in that small town." "Sure, I'd be happy to share," Marcus said warmly. "When do you want to meet?" They agreed to meet at the local diner where Trump had first encountered the charm of the small town. It was a place filled with laughter and chatter, where locals gathered for hearty meals and friendly banter. As Trump walked in, he felt a sense of nostalgia wash over him. It reminded him of simpler times before fame and fortune complicated his life. Marcus was already seated at a booth near the window, sipping a cup of coffee. He waved enthusiastically as Trump approached. "Glad you could make it," he said, gesturing toward the menu. "You have to try their pancakes. They're legendary around here." Trump settled into the booth across from him and picked up the menu. "Pancakes it is then," he replied with a smile. As they placed their orders, Trump felt an unexpected sense of ease in Marcus's presence. "So what's life like here?" Trump asked as they waited for their food. "What do you do when you're not fixing cars?" Marcus leaned back in his seat, contemplating for a moment before answering. Well, aside from my work at the garage, I'm involved in a few community projects. We have a local youth program that helps kids learn skills like auto repair and woodworking. It's important to me that they have opportunities to grow and succeed. Trump raised an eyebrow, intrigued by Marcus's dedication to helping others. That sounds incredible. You're really making a difference. It's my way of giving back, Marcus replied humbly. I grew up here, and I know how tough things can get for young people without guidance or support. As they continued their conversation, Trump found himself captivated by Marcus's stories about local events, fairs, charity drives, and community gatherings that brought everyone together. It was a stark contrast to the cutthroat world of politics he was used to navigating. You know, Trump said thoughtfully, in my world, everything is so competitive. It's easy to lose sight of what really matters, like building relationships. Marcus nodded knowingly. That's true for many people, he said gently, but relationships are what sustain us through tough times. When we support each other, we can overcome anything. Their food arrived just then, fluffy pancakes piled high with syrup and butter, and they took a moment to savor the deliciousness before continuing their discussion. As they ate, Trump shared anecdotes from his time in office, both triumphs and challenges, and Marcus listened intently without judgment or interruption. There was something refreshing about having an open dialogue with someone who wasn't concerned with political agendas or media scrutiny. You've had quite a journey, Marcus remarked after hearing one particularly challenging story from Trump's presidency. It must be tough carrying that weight on your shoulders. It can be, Trump admitted candidly. But I've learned that sometimes you need to step back and look at things from a different perspective. Exactly, Marcus replied with enthusiasm. That's what I try to teach the kids in our program, how to see challenges as opportunities for growth. As their conversation flowed seamlessly from one topic to another, Trump began to feel an unusual sense of camaraderie with Marcus, a bond that transcended their different backgrounds and experiences. After finishing their meal, they decided to take a stroll around town before parting ways. The streets were lined with quaint shops and friendly faces. Children played in yards while neighbors chatted over fences. Do you ever think about expanding your work beyond this town? Trump asked as they walked side by side. Marcus paused for a moment before responding thoughtfully. I've considered it, but my heart is here, he said earnestly. This is where I can make the most impact, where I can help my community thrive. Trump respected that sentiment deeply. It resonated with him on multiple levels as he thought about his own ambitions and aspirations. As they reached the edge of town where fields stretched out toward the horizon, Marcus turned to face Trump directly. You know, he said earnestly, it's not just about fixing cars or running businesses. It's about building connections that last. The words struck a chord within Trump. He realized that this mechanic had become more than just someone who fixed his vehicle. He had become a mentor of sorts. I appreciate everything you've shared today, Trump said sincerely as they prepared to part ways. You've given me a lot to think about. Marcus smiled warmly in response. Anytime. Just remember that no matter where life takes you, staying connected with people is what truly matters. With those parting words echoing in his mind, Trump left the small town feeling lighter than when he had arrived, a sense of hope blossoming within him as he reflected on what lay ahead. Little did he know that this meeting would mark not just an unlikely friendship, but also serve as a catalyst for change in both their lives, a reminder that sometimes it takes stepping outside one's comfort zone to find real meaning in life. The fix and lesson. As the days turned into weeks, Donald Trump found himself thinking more and more about his conversations with Marcus. What had started as a simple car breakdown had blossomed into an unexpected friendship that challenged his perspectives on life, community, and connection. He realized that he wanted to learn more from Marcus, not just about the small town, but about the values that shaped him. One sunny afternoon, Trump decided to return to the town. He called Marcus to let him know he was coming. "I'd love to spend some more time with you," he said. "Maybe we can work on a project together?" "Absolutely. I'd love that," Marcus replied enthusiastically. "There's always something going on around here, and I could use an extra set of hands." When Trump arrived, he was greeted by the familiar sights and sounds of the town. The local diner buzzed with activity, and children played in the park nearby. As he parked his SUV outside Marcus's garage, a sense of excitement bubbled within him. He was eager to dive deeper into the community and learn more about what made it tick. Marcus was waiting for him outside, a broad smile on his face. "Glad you could make it. Today we're working on a project for the youth program," he said as he led Trump inside the garage. The garage was filled with tools, parts, and a couple of cars in various stages of repair. It was a hub of activity where Marcus taught young people how to fix cars and develop practical skills. "We're building a small workshop in the back for the kids," Marcus explained as they walked through the space. "It'll give them a place to learn and work on projects." Trump nodded, impressed by Marcus's commitment to helping the next generation. "What do you need help with?" he asked. "Today, we're putting together some workbenches," Marcus replied. "It's pretty straightforward, just some woodwork and assembly." As they gathered materials, Trump felt a sense of purpose wash over him. He had spent so much time in high-pressure environments where every decision felt monumental. Now, he was engaged in something tangible and meaningful. They worked side by side, measuring wood and cutting pieces to size. At first, Trump struggled with some of the tasks. His hands were not accustomed to manual labor, but Marcus patiently guided him through each step. "It's all about practice," he said encouragingly, as Trump fumbled with a power drill. "I can see why you enjoy this," Trump admitted after successfully assembling his first workbench. "It feels good to create something with your own hands." Marcus smiled knowingly. "That's what it's all about, building things up instead of tearing them down." His words resonated deeply with Trump, who had often felt like he was in a constant battle during his political career. As they continued working, they shared stories and laughter. Trump opened up about his experiences in politics, the highs and lows, and Marcus listened intently without judgment. "You know," Marcus said thoughtfully during a break, "it's easy to get lost in titles and positions, but at the end of the day, it's how you treat people that matters most." Trump considered this for a moment. "You're right," he replied slowly. "I've been so focused on success that I sometimes forget about the human side of things." "That's common," Marcus said gently, "but it's never too late to change your perspective." Their conversation shifted as they discussed community issues, education, job opportunities, and social challenges that many residents face daily. Trump found himself captivated by Marcus's insights. They were grounded in real-life experiences rather than abstract theories. "Have you ever thought about running for office?" Trump asked curiously. Marcus chuckled lightly. "No way. I'm happy right here helping my neighbors in my own way." "But you have such a strong understanding of what people need," Trump insisted. "You could really make an impact." "I appreciate that," Marcus replied sincerely. "But I believe everyone has their role to play. Some are meant to lead from the front, while others support from behind the scenes." As they finished assembling the workbenches, Trump felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him, not just from completing the task, but from engaging in meaningful dialogue with someone who viewed life through a different lens. Later that afternoon, they invited some local kids to come by and take part in their workshop project. As they arrived, wide-eyed and eager, Trump felt a rush of nostalgia for his own childhood days filled with curiosity and exploration. "Hey everyone," Marcus called out as they gathered around. "We're going to start building today. Who wants to help?" The kids cheered excitedly, their faces lighting up with enthusiasm as they approached the workbenches. Trump watched as Marcus effortlessly engaged with them, teaching them how to use tools safely while encouraging their creativity. It was heartwarming to see how much these kids looked up to him. Their laughter filled the garage as they shared stories and jokes. Feeling inspired by their energy, Trump decided to join in on the fun. He picked up a hammer and started demonstrating how to drive nails into wood, a skill he had learned from watching construction crews during his business days. "Look, Mr. Trump is showing us how it's done," one of the kids exclaimed excitedly. Trump smiled at their enthusiasm, but also felt a twinge of humility. It was refreshing to be seen, not just as a former president, but as someone who could contribute positively in this context. As they worked together throughout the afternoon, something remarkable happened. The barriers between them began to dissolve. The kids asked questions about his life while sharing their own dreams and aspirations. It became clear that despite their different backgrounds, they all shared common hopes for their future. At one point, one young girl named Mia raised her hand shyly and asked Trump what advice he would give her if she wanted to become president one day. Trump paused for a moment before responding thoughtfully. "I'd say stay true to yourself," he advised earnestly. "Listen to others, but always follow your heart." The kids nodded appreciatively. It was advice that transcended politics. It was about integrity and authenticity. As the sun began setting behind them, casting long shadows across the garage floor, Trump felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this experience. The connections he had forged with both Marcus and these children were invaluable lessons that would stay with him long after he left this small town. After wrapping up for the day, they gathered around for pizza, a well-deserved treat after all their hard work, and shared stories over slices topped with pepperoni and cheese. "Thank you for coming today," Marcus said sincerely as they enjoyed their meal together. "You've made a real difference in these kids' lives." Trump smiled back at him. It was clear that this experience had changed him too. He had gained insights into what truly mattered, beyond titles or accolades. As night fell over the town, illuminating stars twinkling above them like dreams waiting to be realized, Trump realized that sometimes life takes unexpected turns. And those turns can lead us exactly where we need to be. Little did he know that this day would mark another pivotal moment in both his journey toward personal growth and his budding friendship with Marcus, a relationship built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared experiences that would continue shaping both their lives long after they parted ways once again. Conclusion and reflection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the small town, Donald Trump felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The day had been transformative, not just for the kids he had worked with, but for himself as well. He had come to this town seeking a break from his hectic life, but what he found was a deeper understanding of connection, community, and the importance of giving back. After finishing their meal, Trump and Marcus stepped outside into the cool evening air. The stars twinkled brightly above them, and the sounds of laughter from the garage echoed in the background. It was a stark contrast to the often chaotic and noisy world Trump was used to navigating. "Thank you for today," Trump said sincerely, turning to Marcus. "I didn't just help build workbenches. I learned so much about what it means to be part of a community." Marcus smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of their shared experience. "It's all about making connections, isn't it? We're all in this together, whether we realize it or not." As they walked toward Marcus's garage to clean up, Trump couldn't help but reflect on how much he had grown since their first encounter. The initial tension he felt had melted away, replaced by a genuine friendship that transcended their different backgrounds. He realized that sometimes it took stepping outside one's comfort zone to discover valuable lessons about empathy and understanding. "Have you ever thought about expanding your youth program?" Trump asked as they began tidying up. "You have something special here." "I've thought about it," Marcus replied thoughtfully, "but it's important to keep it manageable. I want to ensure that every kid who comes through feels valued and gets the attention they deserve." Trump nodded in agreement. "That makes sense. Quality over quantity." He paused for a moment, then added, You know, I have some connections that might help you secure funding or resources if you decide to grow." Marcus looked surprised but grateful. "That would be incredible, but I don't want to take advantage of your position." "You wouldn't be," Trump assured him. "This is about making a difference, something we both care about." As they finished cleaning up, Trump felt a renewed sense of purpose. He'd spent years in high-stakes environments where success was often measured by power or wealth. But here, in this small town with Marcus and the kids, he had discovered that true success lay in uplifting others and fostering genuine connections. Before leaving, Trump turned to Marcus one last time. "I want you to know that I appreciate everything you've done for me," he said earnestly. "You've opened my eyes to things I hadn't considered before." Marcus smiled warmly. "And I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. It means a lot, not just to me, but to all the kids who look up to you." As Trump climbed back into his SUV, he felt a mix of emotions: gratitude, hope, and a sense of belonging that he hadn't experienced in years. He waved goodbye to Marcus as he drove away, knowing that this small town would always hold a special place in his heart. In the following weeks and months, Trump kept his promise to Marcus. He reached out to contacts who could provide support for the youth program, securing funding for new tools and equipment, while also raising awareness about community initiatives through social media platforms. The impact was immediate. More kids began attending the workshops, eager to learn skills that would empower them for years to come. Marcus was thrilled with the growth, but remained grounded in his mission: to ensure that each child felt valued and inspired. Meanwhile, Trump found himself reflecting on his own journey as well. The experience had prompted him to engage more deeply with communities across America, visiting schools and local organizations where he could share his story, while also listening to others' experiences. He realized that leadership wasn't just about making decisions from afar. It was about connecting with people on a personal level, understanding their struggles and aspirations, while working together toward common goals. One day, as he sat in his office reviewing plans for an upcoming community event, he received a call from Marcus. "Hey, we're having an open house at the workshop next week," he said excitedly. "We'd love for you to come by." Trump's heart swelled at the invitation. He could hear the enthusiasm in Marcus's voice. "Of course, I wouldn't miss it," he replied without hesitation. When the day of the open house arrived, Trump arrived at the workshop filled with anticipation. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as families gathered to see what the youth program had accomplished. Kids proudly showcased their projects: wooden toys, birdhouses, and even small furniture pieces they had built together. As he walked through the workshop, Trump felt immense pride watching these young minds thrive under Marcus's guidance. It was evident that this program was more than just about teaching skills. It was about instilling confidence and fostering creativity. When it came time for him to speak, Trump took center stage amidst cheers from the crowd. "I'm honored to be here today," he began, looking out at the smiling faces before him. "What you're doing here is truly remarkable, building not just projects but futures." He shared his own experiences and emphasized the importance of community support in shaping lives, a message that resonated deeply with everyone present. As he concluded his speech with heartfelt encouragement for each child pursuing their dreams, Trump felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment wash over him, a realization that this journey had come full circle. Afterward, as families mingled and laughter filled the air once more, Marcus approached him with gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you for being here today," he said sincerely. Trump smiled back warmly. They both knew that this friendship had transformed them both in ways they never expected. As night fell over the small town once again, a tapestry of stars illuminating their path, Trump realized how far he had come since that fateful day when his car broke down on an unfamiliar road. In embracing connection over competition and prioritizing relationships over titles, he had discovered something invaluable. True leadership lies not in power but in service, and sometimes all it takes is one meaningful encounter to set us on a new path toward understanding what really matters most. And so began a new chapter, not just for Donald Trump or Marcus, but for everyone touched by their journey, a testament that we are all capable of growth when we open our hearts and minds to those around us.